Hey, I wasted my money on something dumb.
This is a PlayStation Vita, specifically the Vita 1000, the first model of the system.
Now, I bought this a little while ago because here in Australia, EB Games have started selling what they call retro systems and games again. Does it feel weird that games from my childhood are considered retro now? Yes. Am I still going to buy them because I have nostalgia for them? Also yes.
The PlayStation Vita is a handheld game system made by Sony and released in 2011 in Japan and 2012 in the rest of the world. It was a successor to the PSP and was meant to compete with Nintendo's DS and 3DS line of systems. It didn't work super well.
But I still really like this thing. People remember the PlayStation Portable because it was the first true competitor to Nintendo's iron grip on the handheld console market. But this thing feels like it was always overshadowed by the 3DS because it had a great game lineup and an actually cool gimmick. Let me tell you the story of how I got this thing, because it was so much more painful than it should have been.
Now, I ordered both the PlayStation Vita and 2 games from the EB Games website, as well as another game from Amazon. What are the games? You'll find out later. They arrived and I realized that I needed a memory card because the PS Vita 1000 does not have any internal storage.
Now, this thing has proprietary memory cards.
Meaning that I can't just use micro SD. Now, these memory cards can be very expensive, so I started looking for some sort of adapter for an SD card, and I found
this. Now, this was listed as a memory card adapter, which is wrong. It's a micro SD to game card adapter. Now, normally this wouldn't be much of an issue, but I am an idiot, and I just kind of wish that it had been labeled better. I understand that if you're familiar with the system, it's pretty obvious that this is a game card, but if you've never owned a system before or you're just getting into it, then I feel like it's not unreasonable to see the words memory card adapter and assume that it's an adapter for the memory cards.
But anyway, I ordered the proper memory card and had to wait about a week to get it, but I did, so we can finally get to setting up the system.
So let's have a bit of a whinge. When I started up the system, I was asked if I wanted to sign into PlayStation Network. Initially I said no, I just wanted to see how the thing felt to use. But after about 20 minutes, I decided I wanted to sign into PSN. So I went to do that, and it said that I would need to sign in using a one-time password that would be generated for me. So I tried that, and I got the same message. So I tried it again, and again, and again, and it never worked. So eventually, I looked online to see what was wrong and found that if you try to sign into PSN anytime after the initial setup, it doesn't work. And you need to sign into PSN when you do the initial setup. So I factory reset the system and signed into my PlayStation Network when I turned it on.
I got 2 games initially, Persona 4 Golden and Persona 4 Dancing All Night. First, Persona 4 Golden. This might just be my favorite game ever. I've bought it like 4 different times just so I can play it on different consoles. Persona 4 Golden was my first Persona game and was the one that I played when I was not in the best place mentally. I was just finishing high school and was quite unhappy, but this was the type of game that I could just come home to after a long and draining day. It just feels cozy and happy while I play it, and it also has a great story that still brings me to tears. Persona 4 Dancing.
I'm so bad at this game.
Now, I love rhythm games, but man, I suck at Persona 4 Dancing. I think it has something to do with the way that my brain has to work to react in rhythm games. For example, my go-to game in the genre is Hatsune Miku Project Diva Megamix Plus. Because of this, I'm accustomed to the way that the notes and controls work for Megamix Plus, and I think because of that, when I play Persona 4 Dancing, I need to really focus and not fall into the Project Diva mindset and completely miss the notes. But overall, the game is really fun and has an amazing soundtrack, especially that opening. The last game I got came about a week later, as I said, I ordered it from Amazon, and that game is Hatsune Miku Project Diva F2nd. Like I just said, I love Project Diva, and F2 is no exception. It's the same type of ADHD, overwhelming bullshit that the series is known for, this time on a very small screen. If you've played Project Diva before, any of the games really, then you know how this one works. And if you haven't played Project Diva before, go to Steam, buy Megamix, and fill that void in your life right now.
I will say I'm a bit sad, because Sega took this game down off the PlayStation Store on the Vita, you can't buy any of the DLC anymore. And that means that you can't play some of the best Vocaloid songs made, including my personal favourite one, Rolling Girl.
Also, this game has a mode that lets you poke and prod the Kryptonloids in their rooms, which is great. I love any game that lets me torment my disappointing son. The system itself is a really nice size. It fits in my hands really well. I'm sure we've all had an experience with a controller that's too small and know how awful it feels. The buttons are super nice and clicky, the D-pad feels good. The sticks are a bit small for me, but that just comes with the size and form factor of the system, so I'm not shocked. But they feel good for how small they are. The start, select, and home buttons are a bit in my opinion. They're recessed into the face of the system. This is so they don't press into your hands when you play, but this leads to them feeling a little mushy to me. And speaking of mushy, the triggers are really not great. I've certainly felt worse, but they just never feel like they clicked in properly. I feel like if they had a bit more travel, then they would have been great, but as of right now, they're fine. Finally, the touchscreen. This is where I had some actual issues. Specifically in Project Diva, it felt like the touch inputs don't register half the time, which is a problem for a game about making fast inputs. But outside of that game, the touchscreen worked fine. Honestly, the biggest issue I had with the system physically is the gloss finish. I've always preferred a matte finish on systems. Gloss looks good for product shots, but shows fingerprints like crazy, especially if the system has a darker color. But overall, the form factor of the PlayStation Vita is really nice, and in my opinion, still holds up 14 years later.
I like this thing. It's got a decent library of games, it's fun to play, it's got a decent UI and a shit camera. I think the main failing of the PlayStation Vita is that it was competing with the 3DS, which is still, to this day, a top tier system. I feel like Sony didn't really market it super well, and they also gave up on it really quickly, because it was clear that it was never going to beat the 3DS. But even still, it's a cool little pocket of gaming history that not enough people talk about, and that's a shame, because this little guy, he's alright. PS Vita's pretty good too, I guess.